Welcome to the What's Working podcast, the podcast where we ask, what's working? Hey everybody, welcome to the What's Working podcast. I am Jimmy Nash, and I'm thrilled to have in the studio today Jonathan Grado, a multidisciplinary photographer and visual artist. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy. Happy to be here.
So we'll dive right in. You grew up in Brooklyn, surrounded by creativity. Your family business, Grado Labs, has roots going back decades. So it seems you have artistry woven into your upbringing. What are some of your earliest memories and how that affected you in what you do today?
Yeah. So my family came from Sicily to Brooklyn in 1911. And then in 1917, we bought a building in Brooklyn and opened up Grado Fruit. And we ran a fruit store till 1953. Around the corner from where the fruit store was being run, some other Grados lived there in a brownstone. And my dad's uncle, so my great uncle, I'll just call him Uncle Joe.
Okay.
He was building phono cartridges, which is the little piece that holds the needle at the end of the tone arm on a record player. So
Right.
he was building them on his kitchen table, all by hand, by himself. They started to take off, so he needed a place. The table couldn't hold everything he was building anymore. So he went to his siblings and was like, "Can I shut down Grado Fruit and kind of turn into this audio idea I have?" They did it, and from 1953, in 1953, Grado came to be, Grado Labs. So that all came from him building by hand. My dad started to take over in the 70s and completely took over in the 80s. And then at our peak, we were hand assembling 10,000 cartridges a week. And then in the late 80s, we did 12,000 for the whole year. So at that point, we were just going to close everything down. But my dad had an idea and asked if he could buy the company completely from his uncle. And at that point, my dad brought the company down to 3 employees and they built the first headphone. So there's this long line of kind of assembling by hand and kind of
Right.
creating. My dad's dad, so my grandpa, he was a fantastic painter. My mom, she trained under him. She can paint really well. My brother, just born with the ability to paint. Me, I can't paint. I can't draw. Anything like that, I just can't do. But I did find, I really like taking photos, and I think that need to make something is there.
Right.
And I just found the outlet through photography.
And
My
how
dad
are you
with headphones.
Yeah, how
And
were
then
you
yeah.
introduced to photography? Did someone you knew, or you just saw it and you're like, "Oh, I can't paint, but I could definitely take a photo of this."
So, um, I grew up on the top level of Grado of the building that we've always had. Well, it feels like forever. I grew up on the top floor, and there was one night that I was woken up to fireworks in the middle of the night. And my mom was like, "Oh, it's just fireworks, let's just go hang out in the living room." And I didn't think anything of it. And the fireworks kept going off. And my mom, to keep me busy, she handed me this yellow Minolta film camera. It was this like waterproof vacation camera.
Right.
And she was like, "Oh, you can play with this." And then my dad, who's always had a mustache, now it's a beard, but growing up it was just always a mustache. He realized the fireworks weren't stopping, so he was like, "Oh, come on over here. I'll keep you busy." And he started shaving his mustache. So, just to make other noises to compete with the fireworks. So I took the camera and I started taking photos, and my first photo was him shaving, during that. And then later I found out that, it wasn't fireworks, it was a shootout in front of our building. And yeah, so there was like a SWAT team on our roof, and it was this really big thing. But yeah, so that was the first time I took a photo. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of stuff stems from that. I try and in my work, I try and kind of blend uh, like fiction and memory, not
Right.
trying to recreate exactly what happened, but what it felt like in my photos. And
Hmm.
I think in that moment, I don't know. I try and come back to that. It's like, it was a shootout, but from my
Right.
perspective, it was something else.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. You talk about blending the surreal and the candid and finding that balance because there is a certain, I think you kind of alluded to it, there's a truth beyond the truth of exactly what happened because there is a truth in what you feel in that moment that is hard to describe and capture.
Yep.
There is some artistic license there.
Yeah. I think I get usually in my work, I get that initial seed, that idea.
Hmm.
Um, but then I try and combine scene. I try and put together scenes and objects where initially someone might just look at it and be like, "What?" But
Hmm.
uh, I don't know. To me, it means something pretty specific, and then hopefully someone else sees it and either sees what I see or will be able to take those pieces and kind of put it some other experience that they had in their life. But yeah, I'm not. Um, okay, so growing up in an audio company, the fidelity is something I was taught since birth. Um, there was never a push for me to join the company, even though I did join I'm still working with them, but I took a step back the last year or two. But I guess there was no teenage angst because they were just like, you don't need to work with us. You could do whatever you want. So that teenage angst never, it didn't form until my
Right.
early 30s. Um,
There was no big
but
pressure like you've got to do this. This is your career.
yeah, actually, the pressure came from people outside of the company. There's a lot of, oh, you have big shoes to fill, and
Right.
how are you gonna take this into the neck? Like, how are you gonna keep either keep this big ship small ship? How are you gonna keep this afloat, or you know, keep evolving it? But from my family, they were just like, you don't need to do anything with us. I mean, just do what makes you happy, which was great. And then I ended up joining them anyway. Okay, so fidelity. So finding
Hmm.
reproducing the original recording in this case, and basically having a perfect reproduction of the recorded event is what we aim for at the
Hmm.
audio company. Um, you really don't want to get in the way of what the artist intended.
Right.
Um, so growing up with that philosophy, everything I kind of became like a perfectionist, um, to a debilitating degree. um, but
That's pretty
uh,
normal as an artist, though. I mean, you're in good company, I think, with
yeah,
artists.
it's not unique. It is sometimes it sucks. But I think finding, hmm, I think focusing on the fidelity aspect for so long helped me kind of turn it around,
Hmm.
and knowing how to accomplish that fidelity lets me kind of do a U-turn right when I get there and go in the opposite direction. Um, so I'm happy not to document something exactly how it is in front
Hmm.
of me, like on set or in a scene. And it's much more about the meaning behind it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So the fidelity aspect, that's kind of how I've taken what I've learned at Grado, uh, and kind of found the antithesis to it. Antithesis and
Yes.
antithesis. Yeah, that's a word.
Well, well, I think that's interesting because, like, you could take an event. Let's say there's an event happening on a street in New York. You could take a photo of it, and that photo might not really represent what happened. Like, it could just be a photo. Okay, there's 20 people on the street, and they're doing this, but there's a
Hmm.
way to capture that emotion. Like you said, even if you're capturing something, you're adding something in that is not quite correct necessarily, it might actually better capture
Yep.
that emotion.
Yeah, and I mean that actually leads into something else I'm getting used to. So the photography I did with Grado was, heavy on the product photography and editorial
Hmm.
for the company. Um, but when you take a product shot, th that's that photo is it. That it's not trying to uh say anything that you can't see. This is a photo of a headphone. Hopefully it's a nice photo. That's it. Um, Now that I'm focusing on these photographic series that I try and tell some type of story with, or there's like a narrative in there, um, context is kind of needed in some
Hmm.
ways. So that's even like a strategy thing that's new to me is there are some photos I really like, but showing it on its own, I think, without context of the greater series, um, it could be a nice photo, but I think some people are going to be like, "Oh, that's nice," but I have no idea what this
Hmm.
is or what's happening. So there's this new strategy where I need to kind of figure out kind of a smaller set of photos from this series to tell like an even quicker, like an elevator pitch of the story
Hmm.
in a few photos, um, which I'm not used to. I'm very much used to product photography. Here's the photo. Here's why it exists. Here's where it goes. Plug and play. Done. This is very
Right.
different.
Yeah. Well, I think doesn't that relate in some way to everyone has a shorter attention span now that they just do because we have short content everywhere. It's like even with the podcast, I'm making 1 minute shorts of it that are in that just to catch people's attention because not everybody's going to
Yeah.
sit down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and give you a shot. So I think what you're talking about is kind of just getting people's attention and having a shorter version of the broader story.
Hmm. Um, yeah. And I like to play around with video, but I don't do much video. Yeah. So it's just a learning curve, something I'm still getting
Hmm.
used to and trying to figure out, even though I like something, even though I like this one photograph, it doesn't work in all spaces. At least unless you're gonna be able to sit down and see all 20 other photographs that go with it. Um,
Right.
so yeah, that that's something I'm learning.
Yeah. I guess defining the purpose of each series. Is this something that we need to get people's attention, or is it something that you're going to do a display and it's really immersive to for someone to see everything all at once?
Yeah. And it also has to do with some of I have one series called Happy Hour where it's a business person in a suit with a disco ball for a head,
Hmm.
and the idea stems from having other people's expectations put on you and your body, but you have a mind for
Hmm.
more. Um,
Yes, I looked through that whole series.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That one I think
um,
works very well individually or with the whole series. I mean, I think you kind of get it with each photo.
yeah, it's like it's a sad businessman on a bench, just
Hmm.
looking frumpy and done with life, but knowing they have to go back to work in 20 minutes. But they have a mind for more, and maybe it'll work out.
Right.
Um, but see, that idea is a little more. There's some surrealism going on, but the core of the idea is pretty straightforward. So yeah, so that those photographs might work in a smaller dose or the whole entire thing. And then there are other photos and series ideas where it's a little more conceptual, and unless I'm going to sit down with you and talk about it,
Right.
maybe you'll just like the photo.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned um, about attention spans getting smaller. Um, but then, I mean, this has nothing to do with my work. but it's weird because Substack has seen like a huge growth spurt in the past year or two.
Hmm.
That's that's a good amount of writing that goes into each post. It's not as short as like a tweet.
Of
Um,
course.
so I wonder if there is kind of like, I don't want to say people are getting sick of short content, but I think there is a space where I
Yeah.
think there's a
Well,
yearning for sitting down and enjoying something a little longer.
my wife and I always talk about there's a pendulum that swings. And
Hmm.
like several years ago, I remember hearing about the eco resorts taking off, places with no phones, no Wi-Fi, nothing, because people were so sick of being connected. And so it's like, okay, it goes all the way to one way, then it goes all the way to the other. And there will always be people who appreciate art. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about the value of art now in this age of everyone thinks they're a photographer with their iPhone. Everyone can make a song now with AI. Uh,
Yeah.
how do you view just that consistent value of art? I mean, it's at the end of the day, if we're creators, we have to create, but um, it's a pretty open-ended question here. But just there's been a lot of devaluing of art, and how does that affect your thought in any way in the art that you make?
I don't think it affects, I know it affects some people. I know it
Hmm.
affects a lot of people. I don't think it affects mm, what I want to make or how I make it. Um, I'm very much used to being a team of like one or two
Hmm.
people. Um, I ran all of the everything that was digital for the company for a decade. And that was just being a team of one person. So I'm pretty uh, used to running lean. Um, so what's interesting is, uh, how do I say? So now that I've been doing what I'm doing and focusing on photography and art, uh, I've been more so working on my own terms than anyone
Hmm.
else's. But the downside to that is everything comes down to your shoulders.
Hmm.
So I'll come up with, I can come up with an idea that I love, multiple ideas that I love. But if I don't take any initiative to start it or get the ball rolling or do anything, I'm just gonna be sitting on my couch doing nothing. Um, so pros and cons with everything. I'm lucky enough to have a couple hands that can help when I need it.
Right.
But yeah, I think being able to create in any aspect, uh, I don't know, that's great. So even if your art is only valued by you, or you're lucky enough to have millions of people that love it, um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think as long as you're able to create, as long as you're doing something,
Right.
um, it's never a waste.
Well, I talk with I'm also a singer and a songwriter, and I work and I mentor some young artists, some teenagers, early 20s, and
Hmm.
I always try to tell them that to some degree the work has to be the reward, that the
Yeah.
actual creation, because if you're just waiting for everyone else to appreciate it, you're missing out on what could be years of enjoyment of your own work. Like
Yep.
because you're not guaranteed. That I know some very successful people who have one thing that was really the spur of their success, and they had 100 other things they wish would have been successful, but still that one thing made their career. But if they
Hmm.
don't enjoy the other work they've created along the way, you're just robbing yourself of so much enjoyment.
100%. My joy comes from the creation.
Hmm.
So, coming up with an idea and wanting to create it, uh, I need that outlet. I need to be able to make. I'm not a good sleeper. I love sleep, can't sleep, always overthinking in the middle of the night. So I got to get these ideas out there. I'll just be lying there.
Hmm.
Um, and it's funny because crew, like on set or shooting or finishing up an idea, that's when I'm the happiest. Like that moment when it's done, I'm like, that was great. And then I'll talk to people and they're like, okay, now how do you get it out there? And all of a sudden I'm like, ugh. I just wanted to make this for myself. I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want to have to deal with trying to get it out there. I'm just
Hmm.
happy uh making. But
Yeah.
I think every
Well,
artist goes through that moment. It's like,
yeah, like
yes, we
every
did
job,
it.
there's
yeah.
things you like and things you don't like.
So, you've collaborated with, just for example, A24 Films, Pokemon. You've exhibited South by Southwest. Is there a project that stands out? One of those collaborations that just stands out as particularly meaningful to you?
Oh man, you just said them. During during COVID, uh, like many people, you just have no idea what was coming next or if things
Hmm.
would ever get better. So I remember I think I was just standing there doing nothing. I was just waiting for time to pass by. Um, and I got an email, and the subject line was just Pokemon. So immediately in my head, I'm like spam or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, this. Uh, and then it was like, "Hi, I work at the Pokemon company. We have a few ideas." And I still was like, "No, no way. This is." So I checked the email to see like the at, and it was like at Pokemon.com. And I was like, "Holy geez." And that was like a childhood dream come
Right.
true to work with them. And then my adult childhood dream was working with A24, which that was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
So um, right after college, um, I started working with my dad, and the first project that we did at my time there when I started was working with Elijah Wood on and Bushmills whiskey on a headphone made of whiskey barrels,
Hmm.
made from whiskey
That's cool.
barrels. And at the time I had insane stage fright. Uh, I was cast as like the lead in my fifth grade play. That was the first time I had to ever do anything in front of people. And the day of the play, I had such bad stage fright. I just ran to like the basement of the school and I just sat there and they couldn't find me. So from that point on, I do not like being in front of the camera. But that I no, I had a choice. But I knew it's funny if it's about me, I'm very much in my shell and
Hmm.
I don't like to be in front of the camera or anything. But when it's to help my family or the company or my dad, then I just kind of, I know I have to. Um, so the first thing we did was work with Elijah Wood and these headphones. Um, and I don't know, that was kind of a formative project because I've never worked with producers and makeup artists, and we were sitting there
Hmm.
on set. Um, and it was just kind of being thrown into the deep end of the pool. Um, and then it turns out I don't know if it's changed, but promote, you can't be in anything that promotes alcohol if you're under 25 in the UK or Ireland. And
Okay.
because Bushmills is a Irish brand, um, when they found out I was under 25, they ended up having to cut me out of the whole video, but it was still good practice.
Yeah.
So if you ever see the video, I'm just like right off the edge. I just kind of had to crop in everything. But uh, that was the first collaboration that that was really the first one we did, but that really got things snowballing. Which then we would start doing more collaborations. I would oversee creative and design for those headphones. Um, and that would lead to one day working with A24. Um, and all we did for them, it wasn't even a public facing, it wasn't for the public. We built one headphone for the composer and one headphone for the director of each of their movies for like a year and a half. And that
Hmm.
was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah,
That,
A24 and Pokemon
Well,
were
that's still,
big, just like dreams
very
come true.
rewarding experience doing that, even if it's not front facing to, like you said,
Oh,
just creating for yourself, creating for other great creatives like that.
yep. I exactly. That it wasn't something we were selling. We didn't make money off of it. Um, I just it and it didn't matter. It just felt great to be able to do that. Um, that's my dad's. That's also my dad's philosophy, and I think that might have been where I got it from. He's even said like when he retires, he's still going to go into the office every day and just build and just work on stuff. And he his favorite part of the process is his favorite part is building the final design of the headphone. His least favorite part is naming it. He hates giving names to headphones. There's a lot of work that goes into naming, and
Right.
it's never fun.
Well,
But
because everybody puts their own thoughts onto whatever the name is. You know, people are going to have different thoughts about how that went instead of just enjoying the product. So I get that.
yeah, it needs to. Yeah, yeah. We've had what I thought were good names, but then other people have told us people whose opinions matter in that space. It doesn't sound expensive enough, or it sounds too expensive for what it is, or the number in the model number is just too high. There's a lot that goes into it, and then it
Oh
needs
yeah.
to be a verb. It needs to be a noun. It's like,
Because that's like
yeah,
truly blending the creative and the marketing and the ad space. You've got to merge all those together to figure out that name. It's not just, I felt like this should be called this.
yeah, that moves things from the workbench to like the marketing room to the conference table. And I think the workbench is kind of where my dad and I prefer to be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's good to know where your strengths lie and then have other people for those things. So,
Yes. Yeah.
So we're running through. We're coming to the end of our time. I always like to ask if you could give advice to a young photographer or an artist, any creative, maybe going into the creative space. What would be a first piece of advice to maybe help them find their voice or help them find their path?
Ooh.
I know it's a broad question, but I get some
Oh, no,
interesting
yeah.
answers. So
I I keep a big note of all of my ideas. Even those quick fleeting ones that just kind of aren't doable, or maybe they're
Right.
unobtainable at the moment. I keep that really big note, and I always go back to it because I think I like to repurpose old ideas into something that I can do in the moment. Yeah, I don't. What's really helped me lately? I was looking at a printer for myself, and a nicer at-home printer than maybe something you just normally use to print
Right.
just some documents. And I brought it up to my parents at dinner one night, and my mom was like, "Oh, your brother got me a printer like 2 years ago. I've never used it. It was a little too complicated." So I was like, "Oh, I'll go check it out." So I went to the basement. I looked at it, and it was the exact printer I was looking at earlier that day on buying. So completely coincidental. So as of say March, for the past 3 weeks, I've been like sitting on the floor printing nonstop. Just photographs I've taken, photographs I've liked, photographs I haven't liked, and physically being able to hold the work that you've made. Because because my dad builds headphones. My mom paints. My brother paints. All of their work is very tactile. And when it comes to photography, it's pretty versatile, but I feel like most of the time you never feel
Right.
what you've made. So just being able to hold just being able to hold photographs, and kind of knowing like, oh, I made this and it's in my hands right now. It brings a little bit of a different kind of joy to what I do. So I think if I had one piece of advice to a photographer, make some prints for yourself, and just being able to put your hands on your own photographs. I don't know. It's a nice feeling.
Right.
And
So
I want you to get
what that says to me is enjoying your work along the way and not forgetting what you've created.
Oh yeah, I shoot a ton. And just being able to remember everything that you've done. I mean, there are photographs that I like that I completely forgot that I've taken. And being able to go back and be like, oh, even in down times where you don't feel that creative or you're not sure what to shoot, going back and remembering like, oh, I did this, I created this. It kind of helps build that momentum back up to get you back out there.
That's great. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Jimmy.
We really appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for watching the What's Working podcast. Check out Jonathan Grado and his work. I'll have the links here at the end, and we'll catch you next time.